Hello, I'm Sophie D'Souza. Welcome to my channel, Sophie Stained Glass, and today I'm going to be working on this door. I'm here today to take out this window. These windows were built about 25-30 years ago, so they're not old and they're rather pretty, and they're very delicate. The pattern is very delicate, and they've used 4mm lead for the entire window. And although that's something which suits the design, it's a bit of a compromise when you use 4mm lead because you lose the strength, and this window has blown. This one is all right, probably because this is the hinge side, so it's not subject to as much force as this side. Obviously some of it's broken. So this whole window will need to be removed, not this one, just this one, and I'll take it home and completely dismantle it and rebuild it with the 4mm lead. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So a few words about the tools that you need for taking a stained glass window out. The first thing you need to do, mostly, is remove the beading around the window, which is usually wood. Sometimes they're puttied, and that's what most of the work is. So that's what these tools are about. These are just a humble chisel, and they'll never be the same again if you start using them for hacking out at putty. So don't use ones that you use for fine woodwork. Obviously a hammer for hitting your chisels, and then I have this selection here, and these have all got slightly different shaped blades, and it just depends on the angle and what you're trying to get out. This one I use a lot. I really like this one, and I don't even know what it's called. It's some sort of palette knife or hacking out knife. This is your traditional hacking out knife, and I'll show you how you use that later. An ordinary palette knife. It's got a nice slim blade. And this is actually a lead knife, but again, it's got an interesting shaped top, so that can be useful. You'll need to remove some pins, so I have a nail pull. This window is tied to a saddle bar. So I have some wire snips and I have some pliers which will come in useful. So that will get us through the first section of taking out this window. When you take beading out, you start on one of the longest edges. Because there is a mitre at each corner, they are sort of wedged in place, even without the pins. If the mitres are tight, this beading won't go anywhere. It's got a lot of paint on this door, so I need to break that seal as well. But what you in effect have to do is bow this piece, like in that sort of a shape, to shorten it, to let it pop out. And that's what I'll work on first. Where there is a saddle bar, there are notches taken out of this beading, and that makes these 2 points weak points, and it's not unusual for the beading to snap here, but that's okay because when you put it back in place and it's all painted up, it won't show. So that's what I'm going to do now. I go quite slowly initially because what I'm hoping is for a crack to open up. Because it's got so much paint on, it's quite difficult to see exactly where in this little dip the seam is between the beading and the door. Once I get that opened up, it's much easier. Right, I've got a bit of movement there. So it's beginning to come away. I've switched to a much thinner blade because it will do less damage. It wouldn't have been strong enough to probably open up this beading, but now that it's opened, it will do less damage when I lever it. But it's not yet enough. It's too weak. So I'll go back to the chisel. This is now beginning to open up. I've got a crack now running all the way up and down. So I'm going to start hammering a little bit harder. That noise there, I don't know whether you could pick it up, that's the sound of one of the pins that keeps this beading in place coming out slightly. I just wanted to mention this. A crack has opened up, and it isn't really where I expected a crack to open up, which means it's probably an area that was weak. Anyway, possibly it had already split there when this window was put in. So I'm just going to go very gently. It might hold together here, or it might split, but like I said, if it splits, it's okay, and I'll show you what to do when I put the window back in. Yeah, this is going here. You always have to label your beading, because it has to go back in the same way it came out, otherwise it won't go back in. So I call this right, obviously. If you do true windows, you'd call that right, and which way up it goes. So I put top, a T at the top and a B at the bottom. Now the first one is out, it's much easier to get the rest out. So once you've got it mostly out with your chisel, it can be more gentle if you do a bit of wiggling with your hands to just free the beading. You always start at the end which doesn't have another piece of beading mited in. So you wouldn't start up here, because this end obviously is going to be easier to free. this beading here, it seems to be mostly paint, actually. There's an awful lot of paint on this door. It often the paint would crack much easier than it has on this door usually. You want to just, if you get stuck somewhere, just take it very slowly, because otherwise you will damage the door or the beading, and you want to not do that. So lots and lots of paint on this door. The next thing I have to do is free this panel from the rebate, and I can see that there's some putty between the panel and the door, and I'm just testing it here. I can see it popping out to see what sort of condition it's in. Yeah, it's quite brittle. It's with an original window, this crumbles away, and actually getting the window out is much easier when the window has been in for 100 years. This won't be as easy because this putty is only 25 years old, and at that point there is a risk of damaging the border, because really there's nothing much you can do other than put a palette knife or a blade between the panel and the door. I'm just wondering if I can start that process with these saddle bars still attached. I think I'm going to remove them. If you can do it with the saddle bars still attached, then you haven't got the danger of it suddenly falling out. But this seems to be, well, there's a bit of give there and a bit of give there. So here, I'll try it with the saddle bars attached. There's a paint seal on the outside of this window as well, which I'm going to have to free before this window is going to come out. So I'm going to use this thin palette knife for that. So that's just opened that up, and I started in this corner where it's broken anyway. This is really the vulnerable point. And all I'm doing is using the tip of this to open up the paintwork. If you work your chisel point in where there are lead joints, the glass is just slightly less vulnerable. You can see there, it's free. It just opened up beautifully there. This is pretty nasty here. I'm going to leave that till the end in case the general hammering and vibration helps it go. So I can see this is coming free. You want to avoid too much levering because you will just break the glass. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to hammer straight in. This nasty paintwork, I'm not really winning. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do, and you are going to break the glass. Right, I think that might have got it. Yes. Okay, so I think I freed this all around. So now I'm going to go back inside. So now I'm going to take this saddle bar away. And you can uncurl them. Or you can just snip them with these. I always take the less destructive method of everything. Not that these ties are going to be reused, because the window's being totally rebuilt. This is the point at which everything gets a bit vulnerable to just dropping out. It's never happened yet, but obviously in your worst nightmares. I've got the saddle bars off now, and I can see there's no potty holding in at this section. And again, it's quite loose all down here, but it feels like I'm going to have to work it loose here at the top, and the bottom, because it sits down onto its base, this is always a little harder. And the way I do this is I hold the door open, hold it from one side and work on it from the other. Ah, that's got it. And I hope you can see my hand firmly placed. It's sticking somewhere here. It's loose everywhere except here, so I'm going to try and hinge it across here to lever it out. This putty here is what's keeping it in place, so I'm just going to have a tap at this and hopefully I'll break the bond. Okay. I should be able to lift it out now. There it is. And that is how to take out a stained glass window without breaking it.